Washington, ghost-like objects dart across the radar screen at the CAA Traffic Control Center at National Airport for several hours, traveling more than 100 miles an hour. Air Force jet fighters spend several hours chasing the objects plotted on the radar scope.
Something else is out there.
There's something else out there, okay.
Of all the banks and braes of bonny Scotland, none holds more fascination than the murky waters of Loch Ness.
Tell me, do you think there is life on other planets?
Well, I'm not quite sure, but I suppose there would be.
No, he seems definite. You seem
Definitely.
definite about it. How do you see this life and where?
Oh, I've seen a flying saucer.
Blackwater Media presents Darkfall. Real-life encounters with the paranormal and the unexplained. Let me take you back to August 5th of 2017, Mammoth, California. My fiance and I were avid climbers, hikers, and explorers of the East Side Sierra Nevada mountain range, and we decided to go up to Yosemite to climb. Now you have to know, it's really difficult to get campsite reservations for Yosemite. So we decided to stay in a Bureau of Land Management area a few miles down from 395 to Mammoth, where we didn't have to pay for camping. We pitched our tent and got settled and made dinner. Then I went to go set up our trash bag about 1,000 feet from camp. I don't like having bears close to my tent. It started to rain a little, so we went into the tent and went to sleep around 8:30. The rain stopped around 9:30. And then I had the feeling to go and relieve myself. I put on my shoes and headlamp and started walking to the spot where I figured that it was far enough away that it wouldn't attract anything. Now, like I said, it just stopped raining, so it was somewhat quiet. So for whatever reason, I dismissed the silence as all the critters out there settling in for a cool, wet night. So from where I was, the trash bag was about 200 yards to my right. As I finished up, I looked to make sure that the bag hadn't been blown down from the wind and rain. And it wasn't in the tree, so I looked at the ground and saw what I took to be the biggest black bear I'd ever seen. Shit, I started hollering and screaming and making a lot of noise trying to scare it off. Then this fucking thing stood up and looked right at me. This was no goddamn bear. It was covered in hair and was about 8 feet tall with shoulders probably, 3 feet wide. Then it turned and ran off. I remember thinking to myself, fuck this, and ran back to the tent as fast as I could. I got back to the tent and my fiance asked me why I was yelling, and I told her I was scaring off a bear from the trash bag. And she snuggled back in and fell asleep. I was wide awake and shaking like a motherfucker, all the while listening for any movement. Now, I started hearing footsteps around the car where we kept the food. And then the footsteps started coming towards the tent, and I got scared thinking that this thing was, try to come through the tent and get us. Then the shit got real. It started touching the tent, and I could hear heavy breathing and grunting. My fiance woke up and was instantly terrified, thinking it was a bear. She grabbed the keys and hit the panic button on the car, and the creature took off. Now, we didn't encounter anything again on that trip. I played it off to my fiance as a curious bear, and that we should probably find somewhere new to camp the next night. She agreed. Next morning, we packed up and left early to go climb in Yosemite. And when we came back to the campsite that night, I approached another camper that I happened to recognize. And he asked me if I noticed anything weird going on the previous night. I told him the story, and he told me that he'd heard my screaming and car alarm, and both times shortly after, something went at a full lope through his campsite. He also said that while going into his vehicle the next morning, he noticed that there were huge handprints on his car windows, and was freaked out enough to move to a new spot as well. He pitched a tent 30 feet from where we were, and we remained together for the remainder of the trip. I realize now that we were all very lucky that night. I think about how everything could have easily gone sideways really fast, and God only knows what would have become of us.